a symptom of your virility. There is this common misconception whenever nofap, semen retention, celibacy, or abstinence in general are concerned. And that is that the feeling of desire, of lust, or of horniness, whatever you want to call it, is something to be afraid of. This is a lie. And in fact, this is hurtful to your progress as a man who is wishing to make full use of his sexual energy. Consider an individual's motivation and rationality for practicing some of the things I mentioned before. Let's do this properly. We realize that on some level, our innate ability to procreate is being perverted by contemporary media. People who seek to profit off us are taking advantage of the sexual reflex in men. Soft porn, scantily clad women, provocative content runs like toxic waste through the heart of contemporary culture. The repercussions can only be described as something along the lines of the mass castration of modern men. Men with no ambition, men with no drive, men who are just bumbling around, bumping into walls because their dopamine centers are so fried that they can't even enjoy a simple walk in the park without craving that next hit of dopamine. So if you recognize the fatigue, anxiety, the stress, and an overall lacking of zeal for life, then perhaps this has led you to some of the practices that I prefaced in this short lecture. It is then these symptoms that you really need to be worried about. You should be terrified, frightened to death, in fact, that there are forces out there in the environment that are seeking to drain you of your life energy, of your very creative essence. The only energy that in fact drives all forms of life on planet Earth. Sex energy. So my friend, if you are struggling to find your center, if you find yourself frequently succumbing to these devious agents for fear of when the next urge is going to arrive, then you've been looking at this completely backwards. You should be looking forward to that urge. You should be looking forward to that allure that is signaling your very virility. Know that in these moments that you are succeeding, that you are cultivating your very sexual energy. You will feel your fear dissipate when you better focus on the boundless energy, the boundless creativity that lies just beneath your fear, maybe your guilt, maybe your shame. This is the roar of an engine in an old beat up car that you previously proclaimed to be dead. Nothing to fear, everything to rejoice. Now here comes the next part, and probably the most important part of that rejuvenation process, with a lot of young men missing out on or not placing any value on. It's with this boundless energy, with this boundless creativity, what then will you do? What then will you create? What then will you build? This is the simplest way to describe that illustrious process of sexual transmutation, which again is incredibly undermined in this community. It is not enough to remain abstinent, celibate, and think that the world will fall to your feet. It will only do so once you then pounce upon the world with all this creative energy, with all that boundless energy that lies between your legs. You need to be transparent and honest with yourself and ask yourself the question, are you truly utilizing the feeling, that energy, that proclivity, that disposition to fulfill greater tasks in the form of fitness pursuits, financial pursuits, social pursuits, and also spiritual pursuits? They're all channels that sexual energy naturally has a proclivity for. If the answer is no, then going back to that previous analogy, it's the equivalent of leaving that old beat up car that previously showed signs of life to rot and rust in a garage. Gentlemen, if there's anything that you can take from this lecture, it's to welcome and surrender to that energy that arises in those moments of apparent fear, and just let it wash over you, embrace it, fall into it, and realize that it is more a symptom of your upcoming, more a symptom of your rejuvenation, more a symptom of your virility coming back to you and that zeal for life again. So gentlemen, cultivate it, and most importantly, use it. If you subscribe to anything of which I've said in this video, then you can subscribe to me, and I'll talk to you again very, very soon.